Hello and welcome to the Week 5 edition of the Monster Pod. Matt Brown, Noops Christensen, and we are going to run through each and every game, give you our thoughts. If we have a play, if we have a lean, if we hate the game, we'll let you know that as well. Thoughts on player props as well. As always, guys, this is absolutely free, so go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below. Do appreciate you guys supporting the channel. And in the comment section's always open. Let us know what you're thinking this week, your best bets that you hate, everything like that. We'll take a look at those as well. And Noops, we're starting out, at least for me out here on the West Coast, bright and early, 6:30 a.m. game over in London. We got the Minnesota Vikings and the Cleveland Browns. The Browns have made the switch to Dillon Gabriel. We still are in the Carson Wentz era for the Minnesota Vikings. We're currently sitting 3.5 in favor of the Vikings. A preseason-esque 35.5 to 36 our total out there.
It's just a mess of a game. And, like you said, bright and early. Usually West Coast is the best time zone for sports. But luckily, I get the advantage here. This will only be about 9:30 my time. And it's a game that, again, I think that total of 35.5 is justified given how rough the Minnesota Vikings offense has looked with all the problems they're having on the offensive line. Carson Wentz holding on to the ball too much. J.J. McCarthy, obviously, going to be the backup here going forward. As for the Cleveland Browns, I'll be honest, Matt, I'm not a big college football guy. I'm not sure who Dillon Gabriel is, but it can't be good that they had to wait this long to consider starting him. So basically, they pulled Dillon Gabriel in. This line doesn't move at all. So the market telling you that he is no better than Joe Flacco, which is pretty stinking bad. And it just circles me back to one of my favorite bets. I think we've bet this just about every single week. A Browns team total under 16.5. I don't see how this Cleveland offense gets the ball down the field and scores even 14 points, let alone 16.5. The Vikings defense getting better, getting healthier. And then we didn't even mention yet, the Vikings have a huge travel advantage here, guys. They played in Dublin, Ireland last week, stayed in Great Britain all week, so they'll be adapted, they'll be adjusted. And we see it every year. The Jaguars usually are this team where in the second week of being in London, they just look so much better, so much fresher than the other team. So Minnesota, probably a decent parlay money line if you like. Maybe a sneaky kind of survivor pick, but that's just not who I am. Instead, I'm going to trust the Vikings defense to be good and the Browns offense to be bad. Give me a Cleveland team total under 16.5.
Maybe a food disadvantage there for Minnesota. Sorry, Europe. I love you. I do. I love you. But, maybe
a lot of potatoes.
Maybe a food disadvantage. But outside of that, wide receiver position all beat up for Cleveland as well. I mean, just about everything that could be bad for Dillon Gabriel in his first start is this game. I guess I do understand why they did it. It's like there's no pressure, at least over there. You're not at home. You don't have the home crowd. You don't, all of that stuff, I guess. But yeah, shocking to me. I don't know why I haven't pulled the trigger on the 3.5. I would love this to get to 3. I don't think it will. I think if anything, it goes to 4. So still the better players on the Minnesota side. At the end of the day, it's still the better players. And I think the 3.5 is probably end up being a contest play for me instead of an actual in the account type of play. But it would be Minnesota or pass. There's absolutely no way that I'm backing Cleveland here in the rookies first start. Noops, we hear every now and then, those first starts with rookies, the teams don't have any film on them. So it's like, okay, fair argument, I guess, but they have no talent either. So it's kind of like, do you need film on a team that has no talent on the offensive side of the ball? Probably not.
Yeah, we saw it last week with the New York Giants. Jackson Dart comes in, kind of confuses that Chargers team. Now, maybe that was a little more about us overestimating the Chargers. And like you said, though, the Giants offense has talent. There are guys for Jackson Dart to throw the ball to. I mean, Dillon Gabriel, good luck, buddy.
Yeah, it's going to be a long one, in my opinion. And fortunately, with it being the 6:30 a.m. game, I don't know if I'm going to set the old alarm for 6:15. I might just set that for like 6:45, 7. If I miss the first quarter,
Sleep in, take the family out for breakfast, and make like it's a big deal that you're skipping a football game. This is one of my favorite things to do on Thursday Night Football and spots like this where I have no interest in the game. Go out and pretend like it's a big deal. You're sacrificing football time.
Absolutely perfect. Miami Dolphins on the road at the Carolina Panthers. This is a 1.5 in favor of the Dolphins. 44.5 is our total. Of course, we know gruesome leg injury for Tyreek Hill. he is done for the season. Malik Washington seems to be the name that everyone keeps throwing around. I don't think it's a 1-for-1 trade-off, but it seems like he's the guy that's going to get the most amount of additional snaps, at least anyway, for Miami here in this one. And Noops, Carolina has been at least interesting so far. I'm not going to say good. They're definitely not good, but they've at least been interesting so far. The defense has been a little better, I think, than everybody thought they were going to be. Again, not good, but a little better than we thought that they were going to be. And I think Bryce Young has been not gutter trash like he was at the beginning of last year. So interesting that they are dogs at home here in the Tyreek-less Dolphins.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. I agree with you that the Panthers are better than we expected, but we expected them to be so stinking bad that better than so stinking bad is still not very good. And the defense, yes, the coverage unit has been actually pretty solid. If you go back and look at some of the underlying metrics, your PFF ratings, your passing DVOA, and things like that, the Panthers defense has actually been kind of solid on that level, but you can run the ball on them. You can find a way to move it here. Now, the Dolphins, maybe they can't. Without Tyreek Hill, that is a huge part of their offense. It's something that we talk about a lot more in the NBA, the concept of gravity and how Steph Curry pulls defenses around him. Tyreek Hill has as much gravity as any player in the NFL in terms of how defenses are constantly looking at him and adjusting for what he's doing specifically. So I think it'll be tough for the Dolphins. Jalen Waddle's pretty good, but he's not as good as Tyreek Hill, and Malik Washington isn't as good as Jaden Waddle. So you kind of pull everybody up a level. I think we'll see the Dolphins offense take a bit of a step back here. At the same time, the Panthers also missing a key to their success. Chuba Hubbard, he's going to be out. Apologies if it's Tuba. I can't remember. Mr. Hubbard will not be on the field for the Panthers this week, and it's just too much talent missing from both sides of the ball. And at the same time, neither of these defenses are great. Yes, I talked about how the Carolina defense is better than we expected, but they're not great. The Dolphins defense isn't great. So I keep looking at this, and with everyone that's missing on offense and just how stagnant both teams have been on the offensive side of the ball, want to bet the under, but I just can't quite get there given how bad these defenses can be.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those where it's much easier to make the case for the under than it is for the over, right? Where it's like the explosive plays that you get from the Miami Dolphins are 90% Tyreek Hill, right? I mean, like, yes, every now and then you get an H-Chan run. Every now and then they'll go to Waddle for one of those. But, again, 9 times out of 10, those explosive plays are coming from Tyreek Hill. And like I said, Malik Washington's not a 1-for-1 trade-off for Tyreek Hill. You got to think about it. He could hardly find his way onto the field the last couple of seasons and certainly wasn't getting any target share. So, I mean, he wasn't earning targets. And if he wasn't earning targets, there's a reason why he wasn't earning targets. If you're good, they'll throw you the ball, So I'm with you. I think that's a pretty good look at this one. And 44.5 are pretty widely available out there, actually, if you want to go in that direction. Dallas Cowboys on the road at the New York Football Jets. This is 2.5 in favor of the Cowboys on the road. 47.5 to 48 is our total out there. Noops, we get a Dallas team that goes out without CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens decides finally, after being in the league for a couple of years, I can be a number one. If I just go out there and run the routes and then catch the ball when it's thrown to me, I can actually be a number one in this league, and looked really good doing it. Dak had tons of confidence throwing in the ball, was throwing him the 50-50 balls. Pickens was doing great with that as well. It was like, this is all that talent that everybody was talking about when he came out of college. And fantastic game, certainly for him. We've talked about several times here on the show already how good Dak Prescott has been through the first 4 games of the season, only trailing Matthew Stafford heading into this week in PFF passing grades and all of that. So the offense on the Dallas side has been very, very good. But then there's the defense.
It's not great. It's been really tough, and that's what makes this matchup kind of a mess. I mean, I was putting in our notes that we share back and forth. In a week where the Giants are playing the Saints, this might actually be the worst football game of the week because you've got a Jets offense that does not throw the ball. They don't throw the ball. It almost never happens. They are designed to run. So I mean, are we really going to learn how bad this Cowboys pass defense is? I mean, if Justin Fields throws for 3 touchdowns and 300 yards, we're talking about an all-time bad pass defense, historically bad for this Cowboys team. But I just don't necessarily have the faith in the Jets to even try to throw the ball, let alone be able to throw it. Should be a good week for Garrett Wilson. Don't be afraid to use him in DFS to get him into all of your fantasy lineups if he wasn't already. But it's just a spot where, again, I look at both teams and the Dallas defense stinks, but the Jets passing offense stinks. So how do we get points there? On the other side of the ball, the Cowboys, that's CeeDee Lamb, extremely limited. As good as Pickens looked, he's going to have Sauce Gardner on him all weekend here, basically just following him around for this game. So I think it's going to be tough there. I don't think that the Dallas Cowboys offense really has a lot of dynamicism now with CeeDee Lamb gone. So it's a spot where, again, kind of like the last game with the Dolphins and the Panthers, where I struggle to see how these teams are going to score points, but at the same time, either defense here could really give up a bunch. So lean towards the under. 47.5 looks really high to me. This is probably as close as I've got to making a bet that is technically a lean, but it's under a pass.
The only thing that holds me back is how good the Dallas offense has looked and just how terrible their defense has been. And I just like the recipe for this just somehow finding its way into a weird, sneaky shootout is always in the back of my brain. So this currently right now, the Cowboys defense is giving up 0.261 expected points added per play. That is EPA per play. That is the worst of any defense in the last 4 years. 4 years. That's the worst of any defense in the last 4 years. So it's like this combination of Dak playing well, the offense still being able to kind of move the ball, and then the defense not being able to do anything at all that scares me away from looking towards an under here in this thing. And, I know that there's some people who ask me, like, what do you think about the Jets as a teaser leg this week? Mine is like run for the hills on that one. Maybe the least popular one for me of any of the options this week, because, again, as efficient as Dallas's offense has been so far, one bad turnover could equal a double-digit loss in this game, right? You know what I'm talking about, Noobs? Like, you give Dallas a short field one time, and if it's towards the end of the game, then they put it in the end zone. You end up losing by 10. You end up losing by 14, and then you feel really dumb for doing it. So I think there are some great teaser options this week. I just don't think the Jets are one of the options.
Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of in the same vein of why I'm afraid of taking this under. As much as I'm struggling to see how either offense is going to move the ball, there's definitely a chance for some big plays. Pickens could break one off for 60, 70 yards. Garrett Wilson, if he is going to get a big play, absolutely could get over the top of this Cowboys defense, maybe even twice. So I think you're going to have a lot of variance in this game.
Las Vegas Raiders are on the road at the Indianapolis Colts, 6.5, 7 right now in favor of the Colts at home. 47.5 to 48 is our total. This is a pretty big injury report game for the Las Vegas Raiders. Yesterday came out Brock Bowers, DNP on Thursday. Now, again, Friday is the injury report that really matters, and he could just have been taking the day off because his knee felt a little bit sore. But this is something you and I have mentioned here on the show for the last couple of weeks, and I think now that he, on a Thursday, DNPs because of that knee, Brock Bowers is an absolute baller, and he has not been so far this year, and he has not gotten the same separation that he got last year. He was a matchup nightmare every single week. Teams tried all kinds of different shit against him. Their best linebacker in coverage, a slot corner. They were putting regular corners on him. It didn't matter because he had an advantage over every single one of those guys. And Noops, we hadn't seen that so far this year. And, we were kind of pointing to the fact he's wearing this knee brace and all of what's going on with all that. And like now the DNP on Thursday because of the knee kind of lets us know that we're validated here in a little bit, thinking that he is not healthy. Colts team just kind of keeps on keeping on here, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Been able to move it pretty handily. And you could argue, I guess, that it was an unfortunate loss for them last week.
Yeah, it was. I mean, this Colts team has absolutely been the surprise of the NFL this season. Coming in, we thought that they would compete with the Jaguars, maybe for second place, behind the Houston Texans in that division. But they look like the best team of that group. Now, that's not necessarily saying very much, but they've been very solid. The offense has been incredibly efficient. Daniel Jones hasn't made really any mistakes yet through the first 4 weeks here. So I like the Colts to win this game. They're my favorite selection for Survivor this week. I think this is absolutely the best spot to use them. Looking at the rest of the schedule and looking at this week, there's a lot of other question marks about some of these big favorites, whether it be playing a division opponent, being on the road, having a look ahead spot. The Colts at home here should be able to handle this game. I was going to bet the Raiders, but like you said, you start to look at this injury report. Brock Bowers has just been a shell of himself. The explosiveness that we saw last year, it's just not there. And honestly, they probably need to sit him for a couple weeks just to get that knee right if they're going to get him back to even close to where he was last year. But it's also a bit of a cluster injury. Brock Bowers didn't practice. Michael Mayer, dealing with a concussion. Now, he was a limited participant on Thursday, but it might be tough for him to clear concussion protocol in time to play this game. That leaves them missing two really important players on their offense, and they're going to be asking a lot of Ian Thomas and whoever a guy by the name of Carter Runyon is. That is the fourth string tight end for the Raiders. Not great if we're going to have to see those guys be big parts of this. So coming in, I was expecting to see, maybe I'll look at a Raiders team total over. As good as the Colts have been, their pass defense isn't great. Maybe this is a spot where in a dome, on turf, as underdogs, having to push the ball. Maybe we finally see Geno Smith and this Raiders offense open up. But without Brock Bowers, without Mayer, it's going to be tough. So I do still lean towards the Raiders. I think 6.5 is probably at least half a point too much, but I just can't get there with the injury report.
Yeah, their left tackle going to be out for this game as well. And Lord knows Geno doesn't need anything worse happening for him. Geno Smith leading the NFL in interceptions thrown so far. And something, I don't know what it is, man. Like it's like he's just a fraction late on everything. Just like something about Geno's not firing right now. I don't know if the chemistry stuff with some of these dudes isn't there like he's had the last couple of years. But I look at this and I'm with you. So of the teams that are widely available, I think the Colts are towards the top. Now, if you have Arizona, we'll talk about them a little bit later. I mean, I know Arizona's been a popular team to get you to this point, so I'm sure there's less than 50% of you out there that still have Arizona available.
Yeah.
I think that's the slam dunk play this week over in Survivor if you have them, but again, they're not super widely available out there. So of the widely available teams, I do definitely like the Colts this week. This is a great teaser leg too. I said there were going to be bad teaser legs. This is a great teaser leg. This one is very good.
Put the Colts in all your teasers.
Yeah, like this one is good. So there are bad ones. This one's good. Denver Broncos on the road at the Philadelphia Eagles. This is 3.5-4 in favor of Philadelphia at home over Denver. 43.5 to 44 is our total. We've talked about these guys that are really good with the passing grades. If you go in and you put in a minimum of 60 dropbacks on the season and you sort that by passing grade over at Pro Football Focus, you get Cam Ward at the bottom. Then you get Aaron Rodgers. Then after what he did last week, you get Geno Smith. And then sitting there at 31 out of 34 qualifiers is Bo Nix. He has not started off the season, Noops, very good for this Denver team. And yet, because of the defense being as good as they are, and maybe you can give a little bit to Sean Payton or whatever it might be, they've been in, even these games they've lost, they've been right there in these games. And so you have them traveling across the country to go play Philly. And even though they've looked kind of like trash at the quarterback position, they're still only 3.5-point dogs.
I don't think that's big enough. I'm going to lay the points here with the Eagles. I thought it was 4.5. It is starting to tick down a bit. I always hate kind of going against market movement here, but sure, the Broncos are really talented. That defense is really solid, but what are we excited? They beat the Bengals 28-3. I don't get why we've seen this line move so much. I mean, the Eagles depth chart looks pretty solid. I don't see too many injury concerns really for them, especially from important players. Again, the Broncos just barely beat the Titans in week 1. I mean, that was absolutely brutal how close that game was. Lose to the Colts again with that sort of messy leverage play at the end, but still did not inspire anything for me that in terms of being excited for them. Lose to the Chargers in kind of a lame game there. Yes, it was relatively close, but maybe the Chargers aren't as good as maybe we thought they were. And they beat the pants off of Cincinnati. Now we look at this Eagles team, sure. The game in Tampa Bay got close, but that's one of the toughest schedule spots for anybody all year. Having to go down to Florida while it's still hot to play Tampa Bay, to play Miami. And we heard the Eagles players talk about it. I mean, not a single pass completion in the second half for the Eagles, and they still won the game, folks. Make fun of them as much as you want for that second half. They didn't need to complete a pass. They still won that game. They're back at home. maybe a lot of teams would maybe be looking ahead to this Thursday game, but it's against the Giants. They should be able to beat the Giants with not even their best. They probably don't have to be good to beat this Giants team on Thursday night. So I like the Eagles here. I think this is a solid matchup for them. I think they're a team that has showed us when they need to score points, then they sort of dust off the real playbook. We see them move down the field. They did it against the Rams. We saw a little bit of it against Tampa Bay. I'm happily going to lay the points here. I expected this to be closer to 5.5, 6. Give me the Eagles here. I don't understand the market rating on the Broncos. I don't know why they think this game's going to be that close.
Yeah, I went ahead and Noops, I took the walk down Narrative Street, and I played the over 4.5 receptions for A.J. Brown. Like, a lot of times these wide receiver ones go out and they bitch in public, and what happens they get their way. I mean, like they do. Ball. I mean, they do not get punished for going out and like taking their beef into the streets. Like, they actually get rewarded for doing that. We've seen it time and time and time and time again. And I would not be surprised in the least bit if they manufacture some touches for A.J. Brown in this game to get him to calm down. It's only 4.5 receptions, News. We're talking 5 low. Receptions get you to the over for a supposed number one wide receiver in the NFL. I was wondering where they were going to open this thing. FanDuel has it out there right now at 4.5. It was one of the first bets that I made in the prop market. As soon as that hit, I am believing in the fact that you can get the ball in your receiver's hands. It doesn't always have to be way down the field. It wouldn't surprise me if we see the kind of little bubble screen stuff, the little drag across the middle, the little whatever it can to make A.J. Brown feel part of the offense early on and keep his head in the game and make sure that he is right. And so, again, I know it's all narrative because the stats tell you otherwise, that he's not been a part of this offense and they haven't been throwing the ball very much. But, boy, you take the beef to the street and sometimes you get rewarded.
No, I like that ankle quite a bit. 4.5 is staggeringly low. Usually he's 5.5 with some juice to the over. Now, maybe part of it is Pat Surtain, reigning defensive player of the year, is going to be following A.J. Brown along all game, but I don't think A.J. Brown minds. He's bigger. Yeah. He's stronger than Pat Surtain. The Eagles are not going to hesitate to throw him the ball. I mean, you'll see all those same plays they run, especially once they get close to the goal line. It's all A.J. Brown. So I like that quite a bit.
New York Football Giants are on the road at the New Orleans Saints. This is currently 1.5-2 in favor of the Saints at home. 42 is the prevailing total, though there are a couple of juiced 41.5s out there as well. The Jackson Dart era started last week for the New York Football Giants, and unfortunately for him, his number one target goes down with a season-ending ACL injury, so Malik Neighbors will not be out there for the Giants. Kind of a bummer. I was interested to see what Jackson Dart was going to be able to do with a full complement of weapons out there in that thing. And the New Orleans Saints, I'm curious to see what you think of this Saints team, because I thought they were going to be by far the worst team in the NFL. I think now at this point, anybody that makes their own power ratings, it has to be Tennessee, and probably Tennessee by a long shot. New Orleans, even though the record still says 0-4, they've been, what should I say, like annoying for other teams that they've played. They've just been kind of hanging around, as Teddy KGB would say. So I don't know, though, if they're a favorite over any team in my eyes other than Tennessee. What say you?
Yeah, you look at the Saints, maybe the best way to describe it is I'm pretty sure they're 3-1 against the spread here. Only lost by 7 in week 1 to Arizona, only by 5 in week 2 to the 49ers, and only lost by 12 to the Buffalo Bills last week. Now, did get absolutely routed by the Seattle Seahawks, but tough spot being in Seattle there. And I agree. It's, coming into the season, we thought the Saints would be far and away the worst team, and they're not. Now, they're really bad. They're one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the league, but the defense looks like it has the ability to at least keep plays in front of them. The offense, we've seen Spencer Rattler throw for some touchdowns to get the ball moving down the field. I actually think, again, as we were kind of joking about some of the worst games that we have this week, a lot of people would say Giants Saints, but this might actually be kind of fun. Again, given the way that New Orleans hasn't been terrible, we get to watch Jackson Dart game 2. Such a bummer about Malik Neighbors. I mean, this Giants offense was going to be a lot of fun with Dart running and throwing the ball, Neighbors stretching things out, but we'll see. Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, Nobody really great there, but no one that's really bad. You've got some speed. Maybe they can find a way to take the top off. Wan'Dale Robinson would be a guy in fantasy again. I'd be looking to grab him if I didn't have him already, use him in DFS. I think we're going to see a lot of receptions from him. He is going to be, I think, the security blanket, the guy that Dart really looks to the most. So should be kind of an interesting game. 41.5. I can't believe I'm expecting these offenses each to score 20 points, which kind of I think really is what has to happen if we're going to get this thing over. But that's as close as I was to making a bet here. Lean towards the over.
Yeah, it's one of the other things too about this one is the Giants. The thing that I was kind of saying about the Giants heading into this year was I don't think they're necessarily going to be that good, but boy, that defense and boy, that front four, and they should be able to get pressure and make lives for these quarterbacks really difficult. Well, first 3 weeks, that was just not the case. Last week, though, something changed. I don't know if they changed scheme. I don't know what happened, but they were in the backfield and made Justin Herbert's life miserable. He had somebody in his face the entire game long, and that's Justin Herbert. Now it's Spencer Rattler. If they can do the same thing this week against Spencer Rattler, then I think that this is a completely different story here. We'll see if that front four can get in there. And if that's the case and they can just cover normally, I don't know how the Saints have a ton of success. I think, again, we talk about some of these teaser legs that I do like as opposed to the ones I hate. Even if you like the Saints in this game, anyone that might like the Saints in this game, Noops, how do they win at margin? They have no explosive play potential whatsoever. There's nothing there from that. It's not like we're worried about like, oh, well, you never know. There might be a couple quick scores. Like, no, that's not how they play offense. It's not like you can take the Giants up to 8 without some bad Jackson Dart turnovers, which again is second start in the NFL and that could happen. But without that, how do the Saints win by double digits?
Yeah, you just hit the nail on the head. The only way New Orleans wins this game by margin is if Dart's throwing multiple interceptions or fumbling or you get something like that. But I agree. I think this is a great spot, especially with the number kind of bouncing back and forth between 1.5 and 1.5 either way. If you're looking at Giants plus 1.5, slap that thing in a 6-point teaser. Put it with the Colts. That's probably the best teaser of the week. Giants up to 7.5, Colts down to -0.5. I love that angle.
Yeah, I think if I'm playing this one, I'll take the points with the Giants. I still have the Saints while they're not dead last. Obviously, I still have them at the bottom of my power ratings. The Giants certainly are not too far above them, but they are above them. And so if you're going to give me points in a low-scoring game, I'm probably going to take them more times than not. So Giants would be the play for me here at the +2. Houston Texans on the road at the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm not, just so you guys prepare yourself, this is the actual spread. I'm not misspeaking here. This is 2.5 in favor of Houston on the road against the Baltimore Ravens with a total of 40.5 to 41 out there. So if you have not seen what's been going on this week with Baltimore guys, they're injured everywhere, up and down the lineup. I mean, the Wednesday injury report came out, had 13 different starters that were at least listed on the injury report. Now, of course, that could mean limited and all this stuff like that, but it does not look like we're going to get Lamar in this. Obviously, that's a huge hit, but then you start tacking on the defensive guys and offensive linemen and all these things. Next thing you know, you have the Houston Texans, one of the worst offenses we have seen through the first 4 weeks of the NFL, favored on the road by nearly a field goal. This is juiced at circa to -115. Like we're heading to 3 at circa right now in favor of the Texans.
It's an absolute disaster. You go back and look at this Ravens defense. 7 of the 11 players that were expected to be defensive starters for them coming into the season are either out or likely to be out of this game. I mean, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, Nate Wiggins, Roquan Smith, Odafe Owe, Travis Jones. We already know Matabuke is on IR for the season. Just devastating. And then offensively, you think, how could it possibly get worse than missing Lamar Jackson? Well, Ronnie Stanley's questionable. Yeah. One of the best left tackles in the NFL is possibly going to miss this game. They've been without their fullback, Patrick Ricard, who I know it's a fullback, but he's an important part of what the Ravens do from a protection standpoint, from a blocking standpoint for the run game. I think it's a big reason that we've seen Derrick Henry not look quite as good. Obviously, he's a year older, but he just doesn't have the people in front of him clearing out space for him. So it is just an absolute devastating and depressing spot for the Ravens. You and I talked last week about how if the Ravens lost to the Chiefs, we'd be talking about betting Ravens futures today. Not happening.
Not after all. Not with half the roster on friggin' IR.
No.
Yeah, that's not happening.
I really don't want to put a fork in the Ravens this early, but unless they get Lamar Jackson back next week and some of these defensive guys, my gosh, it might just be over here for the Ravens. At the same time, how do you trust this Texans team? I mean, the offense is just laughably bad, and as many people are missing from the Ravens, they should still have enough pass rush to take down probably one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen in my life. I mean, there was that highlight going around where they had 5 offensive linemen blocking 1 defensive tackle while CJ Stroud was getting killed. I mean, it's just a joke. It's a literal joke at this point for Houston in terms of that line. So I was thinking about maybe an under, but there's just so many question marks about the Baltimore defense. It's just an absolute mess. And even the Houston defense, if Derek Stingley's out, they should be able to stop the run, but the passing game, again, it's Cooper Rush. So I just feel, I mean, I don't know if I sound crazy right now, Matt, but I feel crazy right now. So lean towards the under. Happy to let this game go.
Yeah, it's an interesting deal where I've obviously never coached one single game in the NFL, so this is just me assuming how this is going to go, but it's Cooper Rush at quarterback. I'm not losing to Derrick Henry in a week in which Lamar Jackson is out. And so if you're Houston, Noops, again, don't you just stack the box. You got a great front four on the defensive side as it is anyway. Don't you just stack the box and say, okay, Cooper Rush, if you can beat us through the air, then so be it. We will lose to the Baltimore Ravens without Lamar Jackson. But like, we're not losing because Derrick Henry ran for 165 yards and 3 touchdowns or whatever. Like, it's like I'm going in here with the sole focus of Derrick Henry does not beat us. If Cooper Rush beats us with his arm, with all of these like B-level receivers that he's got on this team, then so be it.
Oh, absolutely. If you're Houston, that's what you have to do. You look at this Baltimore team, Cooper Rush is not going to be throwing the ball. And with all due respect to Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, DeAndre Hopkins, who are probably better at being wide receivers than I am at doing anything, they're not a great wide receiver core. You're not really afraid of any of them taking the top off the defense. So if you're Houston, I agree. If you're D'Amico Ryans, we're just going to keep the game in front of us, stack the box with 7, 8, maybe even 9 guys. And if Cooper Rush beats us, Cooper Rush beats us.
And Cooper Rush did not beat a whole bunch of people when he did have opportunities to start in the NFL so far. One of the worst quarterbacks we have seen in a while whenever he was able to get some action out there. And, it's always a scary thing to bet against Derrick Henry. But, boy, there is, 85.5 out there right now. I mean, FanDuel's sitting 88.5 right now as far as rushing yards. I know the volume is going to be there for Derrick Henry. I just don't know if the efficiency is going to be there. Again, given how I would defend this team, I would assume that the assumption of rational coaching is you stop Derrick Henry and make Cooper Rush beat you. I don't know. It's always scary to take an under on Derrick Henry because he can break one. I mean, even at his age and as big as he is, he still has breakaway speed and can like get a huge splash play. But I think I'm going to have to play the under 88.5. And, if I get beat because he has 33 carries in this game at, 2.8 yards per carry, then, I lose that bet too.
Yeah, it's a great angle. It's something I like quite a bit. I mean, 88.5, that's pretty high for the way he's been running anyway, let alone in a situation where he's got no quarterback behind him and no real help.
Tennessee Titans are on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. This is currently a touchdown and a hook. Yeah, I mean, you can find everything from, if you're in a circa market, a flat 7, all the way out to 8.5 at FanDuel. So there is a lot of numbers out there for this one. 41.5, 42. The total here, we've said it a few different times in the program, in our power ratings, Tennessee, the worst team. And it's not just my eyeballs, Noops. It's not just your eyeballs. It's you go into basically every single metric, and if they're not at the bottom, they're second to worst. I mean, it's abysmal. Both sides of the ball, absolutely terrible, specifically horrific on the offensive side of the ball so far, which is why you get a fairly uninspiring Arizona team as a 7.5 point favorite in this game.
Yeah, it's a spot where I definitely don't want to lay the points with Arizona, but I'm not taking the points with Tennessee. Again, 8.5 is way too many for me to trust the Cardinals, but it's not nearly enough for me to take the points with the Titans here. I mean, just how much longer is Brian Callahan going to continue to be coach of this Titans team? It's absolutely, without a doubt, one of the worst, if not the worst, coaching performances of all time. Throughout NFL history, I don't think anyone has coached this many games without being this stinking bad. As we talked about earlier in the show, if you haven't used Arizona in Survivor, which is unlikely, Arizona's been a great Survivor pick a couple times already this year. You got to take them against the Saints. There was another good spot. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but this is a great spot for them. If you have any Survivor lineups left that you haven't used Arizona, get them in. Get them in now while you can still fade this Titans team. It's probably the last time all season you're going to feel good about taking the Cardinals. But I expect this to be a very ugly football game. As weird as it sounds, I continue to be inspired by Cam Ward. Every once in a while, they're just little flashes of what could be a good quarterback if we ever get a good coaching staff in here to sort of work with him. But it's a spot where I think Arizona is going to be in control of this game. They're going to, I think, really try to grind the clock down, given all the injuries they've had offensively. They're down to their third, fourth string running back at this point. The wide receivers, Marvin Harrison Jr. especially, have been less than spectacular. So just kind of feels like a classic, ugly, sort of like 20-7 kind of thing here for the Cardinals. So was close to betting the under, was close to taking a Titans team total under, but we could get to a point where in the fourth quarter here, both teams sort of take their foot off the gas and we lose this late on some goofy stuff while Cam Ward's throwing the ball downfield to Calvin Ridley. So lean towards the under. Titans team total under 16.5 was really close to being a bet, but couldn't pull the trigger on either.
Tennessee's offense currently through 4 weeks, minus 0.237 EPA per play. Again, EPA standing for expected points per play. So every time they run a play, they are taking points off of the board currently right now with how this team is going.
It's kind of amazing.
It is the worst EPA per play of any offense worth to hold since 2021 in the NFL. That's how bad this offense has been as well. And if you go over to those little grades that we've been talking about, yeah, who's at the bottom of those passing grades? It is Cam Ward, and it is Cam Ward by a decent margin. He has been that bad so far as well. Now, he is a rookie starting on a bad team with a bad coach, and so we might be talking about Cam Ward as one of those guys that, you know, maybe in 4 years he's Sam Darnold, and he, like, goes to a different team, and he's, like, actually good. But, you know, in this situation, I don't know what we can really expect from him anyway, right? And so just a horrible team. Like you said, if you have the Cardinals left, boy, this is it, right? I mean, like, slam dunk, survivor play, move, hit the button and feel good about it. Like, I mean, like, hit the button, go to sleep, feel great about being able to have the Cardinals in your account with all of this. Another great teaser leg as well. Getting them down under the field goal is another good one. And then the only other thing is, what are they going to do at the running back position? So now we're down we're down James Conner, and then now Trey Benson goes on to IR. I am curious as to how that is going to shake out for them, Noops, because I've seen some, we saw DeMarcado get at least a little bit of action for them whenever the primary backs were available, but I don't know, again, I don't know if it's him necessarily. Maybe it's Michael Carter.
Yeah, I think we will probably see a little bit more Michael Carter. He is someone who has had a little bit more success and run as, kind of a full-time running back. He had the job for the Jets for a little while, and again, didn't do anything special during that time. So it's hard to get excited, but I agree. A lot of people I've seen in fantasy are picking up DeMarcado. I would be looking at Michael Carter. I think he has a chance to be the first and second down running back, whereas DeMarcado is more of a passing back and things like that. But I think it just speaks to how dark it is that we've spent just a minute talking about whether or not Michael Carter or Emery DeMarcado is going to be the running back for the Cardinals. So it's just a mess. And again, I don't love Arizona. I don't think they're a good team, really. I mean, they're not bad, but it's hard for me to trust them to cover the 8.5. But I think they win this game.
Tampa Bay Bucs on the road at the Seattle Seahawks. This is out to 3.5 and most of the books out there now. 44.5 is our total. Man, this Bucs team, there are a few different teams. We talked about the injury situation that's been that's going on in Baltimore. This Bucs team just keeps getting hit over and over and over again. Now this week, add Bucky Irving to the list of guys that does not look like they're going to be able to play. Noops, we know Baker Mayfield plays through everything, but he showed up on Wednesday on the injury report with not only a knee injury, but a biceps injury as well. Again, Baker Mayfield plays through everything, but you don't love your quarterback having a couple of bumps and bruises out there for sure. I like Seattle. I think you do too.
I love Seattle. This is my favorite pick of the week. I'm seeing Seattle -3. It's a little bit juicy, -120 to -125 to get the 3. I think that's perfectly fine. Honestly, I might go in and play some alt spreads as we get a little bit closer to game time here. Once we see what happens with the Buccaneers injury report. Again, Mike Evans is out. Bucky Irving looks like he's probably going to be out. Those are far and away the two most important players to the Bucs offense, besides Baker Mayfield, who is also banged up, who hasn't really looked spry himself the last couple weeks. And this is not a spot. You don't go to Seattle against this Seahawks defense. Again, Seahawks defense, the number one defense by DVOA by quite a bit. The Seahawks themselves overall, the number one team in DVOA so far through 4 weeks. Now, again, just through 4 weeks, but have been really impressive. I love this defense. I love them at home. This just seems like an absolute nightmare spot. Tampa Bay having to travel across the country, east to west, which not as tough as west to east, but still pretty rough for anybody that knows how that could be. I mean, I had the Seahawks as the better team before considering the injuries, before accounting for home field. I thought this would be closer to 4.5, 5. I will happily lay this 3 points with the Seahawks. And again, we'll look for some alts when we get closer to kickoff.
Yeah, no one cares, but this opened here, Rogue Book 2.5, so I have a 2.5 in the account, but I would play expensive 3 for sure on Seattle. I'm with you. With the current state of the Bucs now, when we're looking at the Bucs in week 10, we might be looking at a completely different team and we might have a completely different idea of who this Bucs team is if they can figure out a way to get healthy. But as they sit right here in week number 5, I have Seattle considerably above them. And so I think this spread is fair. I think that this spread is validated to get on the other side of 3, even with that. And I think that we're looking at a team in Seattle that, Noops, especially after what we saw on Thursday night, do we need to start looking at Seattle for division tickets, for conference tickets? Like, I don't know if there are any badass teams in the NFL this year. We'll talk about one that I think could be here in the next game that we discuss, but so far, and I even put the Bills in that category because the Bills defense is shown to be a little bit shaky at times. Like, I don't know if there's a team where I'm like, I'm going to war with that team this year.
No, I mean, there isn't. Like you said, we'll talk about the Bills in a little bit and their defense, and I think that's going to be a big part of this week. The Eagles, we know, have been less than perfect, just kind of grinding out some of these games. Seattle did lose to Pittsburgh, but not to Pittsburgh. They lost to the 49ers in week 1, but have been really solid since then. And I'm looking at division odds right now. This is after, again, we watched the Rams fall apart against the 49ers last night. The Seahawks are plus 320 to win this division. I don't get that. That's a great bet. That's a bet I'm definitely going to make. Honestly, probably why you're talking.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm writing this down here as well because I'm going to add that to the portfolio. Is the Seahawks in the NFC West? I'm not going to say lucky because you got to go out and you got to win football games, but look, the 49ers are pretty fortunate to have 2 of those wins that they have, and
absolutely.
And so I if you're going to give me over 3-1 on a team that I think is at least currently right now on paper better than the 49ers are, then I'll take that, man. Like, I know it's I know it's crazy for me to be like, yeah, Sam Darnold, I'm going to battle. I like Sam Darnold. And you know what? The advanced stats like Sam Darnold as well. I was going to say the stats like Sam Darnold as well this year.
Yeah, maybe the Kevin O'Connell effect carries through even once you leave. I mean, he's been really good. And like you said, I can't believe we're both saying this on a recorded video that will last forever. Let's trust Sam Darnold.
Seriously. EPA plus CPOE composite through the first 4 weeks of the NFL season, Sam Darnold is your number 2 quarterback in the NFL based off of that. And then if you go to the subjective rankings and what they do over at Pro Football Focus, where they go in and grade every single play, he's 3rd overall in the NFL through the first 4 weeks. And so this is not just you and I who don't have the trained eye that some of these other people saying like, he looks good out there. Like, no, we have we have people who do have the trained eye along with the advanced stats that are telling the same story, which is, hey, man, the Seattle team is really good on the defensive side of the ball. And, oh, by the way, you have one of the top quarterbacks in the league through the first month of the season.
Absolutely. It makes almost too much sense. Again, like I said, number one in DVOA, number one in defensive DVOA by quite a bit. And that seems sustainable to me. We thought Seattle would have a great defense coming in. And we've seen that's what happened. Mike Macdonald, a solid head coach. Jackson Smith and Jigba, a fantastic wide receiver. And if Sam Darnold can just continue to be above average, let alone as good as he's been, the Seahawks team is probably the third best team in the NFC.
Let's get to a team that I think could still be a wagon. We'll see. The Detroit Lions are on the road at Cincinnati. They are up to 10.5 point favorites here over Cincinnati, 48.5 to 49.5, the total out there in the market. Yeah, the Cincinnati team has been as bad as advertised on the defensive side of the ball. And then once you lose Joe Burrow, the offense has sputtered as well. Detroit, after stumbling in week number 1, Noops, maybe has looked like the best team in the NFL since. And you kind of look, and we were all worried about losing both coordinators, and maybe it's just Dan Campbell's awesome. You know, like, I know we joked in the whole biting the kneecap speech, and I think like that set the tone for what we thought of him as a person and as a coach, but you hear these players talk about him and they freaking speak with such reverence of him and how much they love playing for him and all that. Like, maybe Dan Campbell's just awesome at this, and like he picks good guys to run these offenses and defenses, and you just get really good play out of them. And like, again, like Detroit's really, really, really good. And I think that, you know, it's totally justified, obviously, in this game against Cincinnati. But I mean, moving forward, I think we need to put them in the same breath that we have some of these teams that we're talking about that are elite.
Yeah, the only reason I said the Seahawks were the third best team in the NFC is because the Lions are the second or maybe best team in the NFC, depending on how you feel about them and the Eagles. And I like what you said. It's all about infrastructure. Dan Campbell is a great head coach. He is a leader of men. He knows how to instill the right habits in these guys. He knows how to get his coordinators to bring the most out of these guys. He makes great decisions. I mean, I can't think of a coach that hasn't screwed up a fourth quarter or so, whether or not to punt, whether or not to go for it. And it seems like Campbell never does. He makes pretty much the right decision. Had some troubles in the postseason a couple of years ago, but it seems to have gotten over that. I mean, this Detroit team, I forget what the number is, but they cover spreads like gangbusters. They're the best team against the spread since Dan Campbell has been the head coach by a long shot. I will happily lay the 10.5 points here. I mean, Jake Browning didn't throw an interception somehow last week, so we're getting at least one, if not two of those against this Lions defense that has some solid corners that can generate a pass rush. Just everything looks good here. I was hoping to play a Lions team total over at 29.5. It's 30.5. It's a little bit juicy, so I'll stay away from that. But I'm going to lay the 10.5 at the Lions and play alts all the way up to 20.5. I'll play minus 10.5, minus 13.5, minus 16.5, and minus 20.5, which I'm seeing anywhere from plus 300 to higher there. I think the Lions absolutely smash this Bengals team, just like they have. That's the other great part about Campbell. He doesn't grind away games. He is not afraid just to continue to pour it on with one of the best skill position groups that I can remember in my lifetime watching the NFL. I mean, to have Jamison Williams, to have even Khalil Shakir, Khalif Raymond is the third there for them. And he's your third wide receiver. He is one of the most talented athletes in the NFL. You've got Gibbs, you've got Montgomery, even Craig Reynolds behind them. Brock Wright is your backup tight end. He'd be a starting tight end for most of these teams. I mean, the Lions are fantastic. They're going to put up points in bunches, and I think they cover every number in this game.
You look, and of course we've already told you guys how terrible the Titans are, so I'll quit picking on them. However, only one team has allowed more pressure rate this season than that Titans team, and it's Cincinnati. And in comes Aiden Hutchinson and this really good pass rush for the Detroit Lions. Like you said, Noops, I mean,
or Jake Browning.
It's going to be a nightmare for Jake Browning. I mean, he is going to be running for his life all game long, and at some point, even when you have Jamar Chase and even when you have T. Higgins, it just doesn't matter if the quarterback has no time to throw the ball whatsoever. I expect that to be the case this week for sure. There was a flat 10 at Circa. I laid the flat 10 at Circa in this one, and I feel pretty good about it. I could be wrong. I think Detroit might be well on their way to being my number one rated power rated team, depending on how the Eagles look this week. I have not moved off my priors through week 4 like completely yet. Of course, injuries have teams shuffled and all the different stuff like that. But like the Eagles are very vulnerable at that one spot. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. They're still the number one team. I have to, out of respect for what they've done the last couple seasons and how they've been able to turn it on in big moments, I have to have the Eagles number one in the NFC, but it's 1A and 1B is the Lions.
Washington Commanders on the road at the LA Chargers. This is a flat 3 in favor of the Chargers. 47 is the prevailing total out there, though you can find a half point on either side of that. Jaden Daniels is going to go for Washington, but none of his receivers are. And so it's Deebo Samuel and some dudes that you didn't know were still playing in the NFL. Yeah, I'm serious. It's like, really? Okay. Chris Moore? Really? He's still playing in the NFL, huh? That's interesting. I guess we could get some Luke McCaffrey stuff going on there in Washington. Of course, the Chargers coming off that really, really bad loss on the road over there to the New York Football Giants. Noops, how does this go at a field goal in favor of the Chargers at home?
I guess this is just sort of, you look at these two teams, they're relatively even. The Chargers are a little healthier. They're at home. So you kind of make the Chargers 3-point favorites. From a spread perspective, I lean towards Washington. They haven't been great by any stretch of the imagination, but they're a solid football team. With Jaden Daniels back, they should be able to control this game. What I don't understand is why the total is so high. 47.5. I had this closer to 44.5. That is a big 3-point difference. There's not a ton of key numbers when it comes to totals, but the difference between 44.5 and 47.5 is huge. And that's kind of where I have it here. Again, Jaden Daniels is back, but we know he's going to be limited. He's going to be braced up with his knee. I think that Washington, the coaching staff, Dan Quinn and those guys have shown that they are going to be careful with him. And that's kind of what I expect. And even if they're not careful with him, who's he going to throw the ball to? I mean, Terry McLaurin is out. Noah Brown is out. Deebo Samuel looks like he's going to be out. So as you said, I mean, it's just kind of like Madden made up guys. Chris Moore, Jalen Lane. I've never heard of Jalen Lane. I have no idea who that is. Luke McCaffrey should have a pretty big week, but the Chargers know that. He'll be their number one priority in terms of pass catching. Probably a big week for Zach Ertz. Maybe look at some of those backup tight ends, John Bates, Ben Sano. They sneak in and get some catches there. But this is just a game. The more and more I look at it, I don't understand this total. I don't understand how both of these teams are going to score 20-some points. This just seems like a slow, ugly game. Two teams that are going to be happy to run the ball, happy to sort of get out of this game without getting anybody hurt here. So this is another bet I love. Probably my second favorite bet of the week. Give me under 47, 47.5, 46.5, whatever. I don't care. This is going under.
Yeah, it's funny. You and I don't compare our notes or anything whenever we're getting ready for the show and all that. And like the under was the play for me here in this one. There was and this has been getting popped pretty good. 48 was available yesterday in this one, and so I took the under 48, and I feel pretty good about it, mainly because the Chargers, too, with the emergence of Hampton, I think are going to be a little more apt to run the ball. I mean, they were just passing at such an incredible rate at the beginning of the year because they didn't have any sort of run game whatsoever, and I think Hampton has kind of proven that he's figured it out at least a little bit. I think they'll be at least a little bit more inclined to run the ball. I mean, their pass rate over expectation was just through the roof, and that's not sustainable. And so I'm with you. I thought 48 was just too much. I don't know. I love Jaden Daniels, obviously LSU guy and all that, but dude, Deebo Samuel and Luke McCaffrey and like Jalen Lane and Chris Moore and all that, like, where do the points come from? I mean, where do the points come from? So let's get the under ticket in the account. Feel good about it. And, if Jaden Daniels goes out and runs for 150 yards and whatever, then so be it. That's football. Sometimes it happens in football. We'll just say, yeah. That's what Jaden Daniels does. Okay, Sunday night football. This is the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills. This is currently 7.5, 8 in favor of the Buffalo Bills, 48.5 to 49.5 out there in the market, guys. Of course, our friends at Bet365 all year long running the Sunday Night Football specials. You can go in, place a $10 bet on the first touchdown score and get a split of $365,000 in bonus bets if your player scores the final touchdown of the game. So go in. They have boosts for Monday Night Football. They have boosts for Thursday Night Football. They have all of that going. So again, go in, Bet365, and take advantage of all of the stuff that they are putting in your account. It is wide range of markets available at 365 as well. So if you have not gone and sign up, be sure and go and get your account over at Bet365. So Noops, here's another one that is at least interesting from a survivor standpoint. I think only about 40% of pools out there are going to have Buffalo available. If you didn't use them last week or the week or 2 weeks ago, then, I think maybe you have to use it this week. I don't necessarily, you're never going to feel bad about the Buffalo click, but it's kind of like at Atlanta next week. And again, you're not scared of Atlanta, but it's on the road. Bye week in week 7. Well, you can't play them on a bye. Well, if you do, you can, but you'll be out. You'll be out of your survivor pool because, it's a bye week. At Carolina, like we said, it's on the road. We're not scared of Carolina, but again, on the road, all of that. The Kansas City in week 9. At Miami, we're on the road again in week number 10. So it's just kind of like you could play them in most of those games, but you're not going to love it. So I don't know. Maybe now's the time, if you still have Buffalo left, to roll them out in Survivor.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and even think that if you didn't use them against Miami, if you didn't use them against New Orleans, you may have missed your spot, because I personally just hate playing division games when it comes to Survivor. These are the games that always end up being a little bit wonky, stuff that you can't really expect. But like you said, if you're going to continue to save Buffalo at Carolina week 7, that's not so bad. At Miami week 10, I mean, who knows how much of a mess Miami is at that point.
Yeah.
That might be a good spot. And then they host the Cincinnati Bengals week 14. The only problem there is maybe the Bills don't care anymore. Maybe they've somehow already locked up the number 1 seed by then. It's really tough to trust Buffalo. And that's kind of why I like the Patriots in this game. I mean, New England hasn't been fantastic. They don't look like a team to me that could win multiple playoff games, but the offense is getting better. It looks more and more solid each week. Drake May continues to progress, and I think has a chance to be a really great quarterback in this league someday. And this Bills defense stinks. It's bad. It's one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Part of it is you got a tough schedule there to start, but even once you sort of balance some of the things out for opponent adjustments and things like that, they struggle. I don't understand why this Patriots team total is 19.5. I don't. I was expected to be 20.5, maybe even 21.5. I will happily bet the Patriots to score 20 points. Are you kidding me? 20 points in a game where they should be behind. They should be pressing to score as much as they can. At the end of the game, they're going to be playing hard, whether Buffalo Bills or not. I love this bet. Give me a Patriots team total over 19.5.
Yeah, it's kind of the same bet in different form, and I just played just the general over for the game, and I know that it's a lot of points whenever you look there and you see 48.5, but Noops, for me, this Buffalo defense leaves a lot to be desired. New England's defense, while I thought they had a lot of upside, and they still might, we're only 4 weeks into the season, has not been as good as I thought they were going to be either. That being said, Drake May's a baller, man. Drake May can play. We know Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and I think these teams might kind of take turns duking it out a little bit here. So I played over 48.5, and I know we've been kind of on the under train here on this show. It felt like this week seemed like a lot of under type games, but I don't know, man. I think on Sunday night we might see these teams in a track meet.
This should easily be the highest scoring game of the week. The total, I believe, is the highest total, and it might not be high enough. I think the Bills could score as many points as they want. It's just whether or not the Patriots are going to be able to respond. I think you could look at this game. I mean, it's 49.5. You could see a case for setting it at 59.5. Honestly, there is no reason at all to expect this game not to just get completely out of hand. I guess the only thing, just a little bit of devil's advocate, both teams like to run the ball, and when you're running the ball, the clock is ticking. That can always be kind of tough, but I don't know. Even with all the running, I mean, James Cook is going to break one here. This is a great spot to bet overs and probably alt overs.
All right, Noops, I'm going to put you on the spot. We have the Colts as 7-point favorites over the Raiders. We have the Arizona Cardinals as 7.5-point favorites over Tennessee. Detroit's 10.5 over Cincinnati. And then the Bills are 8 over New England. If you had to pick one of the big favorites to lose outright this week, who would it be?
Oh, that's a tough question. It honestly might be Buffalo. I love going against teams in division games and things like that. And in a game state, in an environment where I don't think either team is really going to be able to stop each other, that is a really dangerous spot for the favorite. So, yeah, as much as I look through and, I feel pretty confident the Buffalo Bills win. If I had to pick one of those teams to lose, I think the Patriots are the one to do it.
I like it. Guys, head to lineups.com. You can see all the articles that are up over there on the site, including Noops' breakdown of first touchdown scores that he puts up. You can also see the breakdown of Survivor as well over there. This channel is free every single week, so go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate the support there. Let us know in the comments section what's your favorite game of the week. What game do you hate? Is there a total that you are really eyeballing? Is there a player prop that you really love? And, of course, we'll take a look at that and discuss that as well. For Noops, I am Matt. Good luck on all your Week 5 bets.
Bet $5, get $300 in bonus bets, win or lose, with Bet365 Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 21 plus only. T&Cs apply. In-app only.